Hello, hello. Good evening, everyone. Just waiting on Candy to come on in. She will be up in just a second here. Did you guys tune in today to the trial? It was so much going on today. It was a good day. A good day. Really did show a lot. Did you guys catch the little spot where they had the judge use we? Hello, Tall Glass. Hello, Special. Hello, Mel. Candy will be in just a second, so we're going to cover everything as soon as she gets in. She's getting on now. How are you guys doing this evening? Oh boy, I didn't send the StreamYard to her. Let me do that now. All right. Got it. All right, guys, she'll be right in. She didn't get the link. That was my fault. So apologize, guys. Who all tuned in today to the trial? Who was able to see it? Hi, Pamela. How are you doing today? Today was an insane day. Insane day. There she goes.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Ken. I told them I totally forgot to send you the link. That was so my fault. So I
No
apologize.
problem.
I got stuck on reading a bunch of stale cases. Um, yeah, so I got I got stuck. So I apologize. I was just asking them who tuned in today. I got so many notes from today. There was a lot of stuff happening today that was just insane. Insane. Yeah, Tall Glass Harvey did let her have it today. Um, today is the first time I've ever seen him that irritable. I have not seen him that irritable before. Hi, RD. It was so crazy today watching. I'm gonna tell you guys, I really got stuck. The judge is really finishing off these sentences and really helping. Um, are you offering it for this or are you going to use it for this? Well, you gave them the option or the answer, and that may not even be what they're going to say. I waited. I called Candy, I think 3 times today and was like, Weinstein is about to fly out of his seat any second because I literally could feel the glares, the looking, down, looking at the judge. He was like, no way did that go in. Um, I really thought he was gonna lose it today, but it was Harvey that did. Harvey had had enough today. That's
I
probably
didn't.
the loudest I heard his voice. What about you, Cam?
I know. Even Atkins, is that his name for the estate? The gentleman?
Yes, the one, yeah.
Okay. I
Mhm.
did not like the comment that he had made in regards to them what getting along, they get along well, and that little chuckle that Love had given.
Oh, I must have missed that little
You
part.
must have. Did anyone else see that? That was just so disrespectful.
Yeah, I mean, it kicked off right away. This morning, I'm finishing the sentences. I was like, what is? And then when she said, well, we can use it for this. And then she was like, well, not we, but you as in the state. And I'm like, ooh,
Right?
ooh. That was a big one, just to override and overshadow and overlook.
Right.
You know, that you could tell, they're just really starting to lose their patience, and, the judge is not gonna really understand, or I wanna say respect it,
Mhm.
because she hasn't been here long enough to see that this is, um, a complete pattern, that this has been from the very, very beginning.
Right.
And so you look at all these things, and when Harvey said, this is nested hearsay. This is hearsay within hearsay. And when you look up the actual um, meaning of it in law, um, that's exactly what it is.
Right.
And what I got stuck on was looking over, they had talked about RICO indictments, and one thing that it was from the statute of the Congressional Research
Mhm.
Service, and it's basically a legislative debate since the year 1914. And they updated um, basically everything on it in 2017. So it had never been updated prior to 1914. In 2017, they did. But one of the biggest things that stuck out to me was just four sentences. And it says a statute of limitation dictates the time period within which legal proceedings must begin. The purpose of a statute of limitations in a criminal case is to ensure the prompt prosecution of criminal charges, and thereby spare the accused of the burden of having to defend against stale charges after memories may have faded or evidence is lost.
And
And
memories, I'm sure, have faded, and they're gonna fade with the jury.
yeah, I seen that, I seen that, and I was just like, to kick it off, right, to begin with, I thought that was like really, really good, to see that. But man, it was wild today. I'm just past the point, just, judge, just let it all in at this point because it's coming all in anyway. You're wasting many more days for the jurors to be out, even though they had this week off prior. They just came off an extended break. So, really, this break should have been canceled.
And Love is asking for another break to go over the evidence that they have. And it's just like, you know what? This week was long enough. Either you had enough evidence to charge these gentlemen with RICO or you don't.
I thought the
So
biggest part they said today, too, is like, they're like, okay, that's going to come in as a co conspirator, but a co conspirator statement to what? Like, what's the conspiracy?
exactly.
And I just thought, like, how it, Steele probably said it best. It's like putting a bag over his head and getting hit with a baseball bat. Like, you don't know which way it's coming. And that's exactly what we're seeing, like,
Yeah.
continuously. And you just want them to do better, and you want them to um I had an argument with someone today, and I'm just going to put it out there and share. I was not going to share, but I am going to share it now. Um, I had an argument with someone today in regards to the trial. This particular person was actually supposed to be helping out with some things, and then had said, after watching a couple videos, I don't think I don't think that I want to participate or help with anything because, the videos really show that they led the wrong life and they just have done the wrong things in life. So I don't think that they should be saved.
Oh.
And to me, that was very like, wow. I said, regardless of anyone's upbringing, their past, whatever, you know, they decide to do, that's not the basis here. The basis is a fair and just process. You got to have a fair due process. And that is what it's about.
Mhm.
And so the argument kind of went on a little bit longer than necessary. And when I heard the statement from a professional say, I don't know, I think I would try to railroad them too.
Oh, wow.
I was like, yeah. Um, you just never know somebody's mindset or, what they would do. Now, I'm looking like, mm, that,
People say that until they are in that situation or their family members are in that situation.
yeah, I don't, I don't know. Obviously ties are not definitely the same after that, because when you hear someone has the mindset that I'll just railroad them, and just get it over with. Ooh, I mean, man, that's deep. That
It
is
is.
like that is so deep. And just to think that, that prejudicial that fast to say, no, you don't deserve due process. And then when I tuned into the trial, I had paused it during the little, I'll call it a debate or whatever you want to call it. Um, I had turned the trial back on and I was immediately the part that came up. The judge had finished the sentence for the state and we will use this and let this in. And literally, I don't know if it was a sign to me or whatever it was, but I was really blown away at that. I was really blown away. And then just to think of you're a professional. So it's really disheartening to see the different sides.
It is. And for her to be a professional, a
Hmm.
honorable judge, she has no order over her court.
Yeah, yeah, scary.
It is.
It's very scary how that can operate that way, and it could be persuaded that way. And when you look at it, it's like, wow, you can't help but to, say whatever choices were made in life, yes, everyone does have to face consequences at some point in their life, whether it's here on earth or at another form. We won't go down that subject, but um, it is what it is. But we are not the ones that make that determination, and neither does the court. It's always in the hands of the jurors, but at the same time, you can't throw all of these things and have everything stick, because you're looking at, the faded memories. It's stale. Not only that, you look at when Judge Whitaker said, this is not going to be a trial by ambush. Hello, it has been. It
Yeah.
has been the whole time. And so it's really it's like taking away their ability to use their art and rap about anything. They could rap about all of the things that are happening in their city, because all rappers do. That doesn't mean that they've committed those things. And so it's just really disheartening to see that this is where we are. This is like where we are, that, you have many, many people out here that are just outraged that, this is where the taxpayer dollars are going. This is what's occurring. They're just kind of throwing everything to see what sticks, what does not. The part where the wrong video was played today
Mhm.
and she announced it after the whole video played, it's like, it's the wrong video a couple seconds in. So
Yeah.
it's just little things. It's little things that make a huge impact.
And like even what you were saying about the lyrics, and Adams was wanting to use the lyrics like when they said that they didn't want to add names or implement anything of an event if it were to occur. And when Whitaker was saying, well, they were just thinking of that conversation by not impacting themselves.
Yeah. Says it's a trial. Tall Glass says it's a trial by parachute. She thinks she's saving the trial, but she's continuing the mockery of justice.
I agree.
She did not start off that way. I felt like she came in strong. She came in, laid down, the rules, but it's way deeper. It's way deeper. You even heard her say that her courtroom was held up because this trial had been going on, and attorneys that she needed for, some of the defendants that were coming in, there was an issue. So she understood that they had taken. But when they spoke about the delay in the trial, and state had stated that it was due to other reasons,
Mhm.
that, breaks had to occur, and um, she had said something else for it. And it's like, no, that's not what happened. And even the witnesses, how long the witnesses each have been on stand. And they like insinuated that it was only the current witness that has taken this long. And everyone has sat and watched witnesses stay on the stand for days at a time and even continue into the next week. So I'm just not understanding. I'm not understanding the whole thought process on this, and exactly, but everything came in.
I feel as if they are really trying to play a psychological game with everyone because they're manipulating their words, they're making things up, and it appears as if you've heard something before, but then you're second guessing yourself like, wait, did they bring it up before? But we here that are outside of the courts, well, at least for myself, I know I take notes because I can't rely on someone else's memory and or what they had said previously, because then they'll do the wordplay and switch it up. So that I'm sure is mentally exhausting. And for Whitaker to even say that she doesn't remember what she had written down, well, for you to be a mediator sitting in the courtroom and not remembering what you had written down, that is unethical to me. So, why are you the judge? Why are you proceeding over this case? Why do you have these men's lives in your hands and you think it's a joke?
Yeah, there's no laughing matters, when you have lives in the balance. Um, I'm gonna tell you what really got to me and got me really mad is the jail call. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Mhm.
I'm gonna be very honest with you, about Stillwell's life. Where you can hear others, basically trying to call the shots on his life. And I can't imagine all of them but one are there on Rice Street, and everyone knows Rice Street and the condition of like Rice Street. So imagine having to finish a long day of trial, a long day of trial. You're in there all day, you're stressed out. You know, it's not been going good, and you get back to the jail, and now you got to watch over your back the entire time. You can't go to sleep. You know, you don't know who's going to come in. We've heard that the jail bars doesn't work correctly, that when they went there, someone was able to open up the cell and say, I'm right here. And so you just look at those things that you can't beat them down any more than what they are. You can't. And then you hear others like, because they were announcing to each other who they were. So that shows you right there that they didn't know each other. And I think that the others, whoever the other side in there is, like they want to make themselves relevant because of their status. That didn't sound like they know each other. That sounded like something else to me. But just to think that someone that they said is calling the entire shots on Rice Street decides who lives and who dies, and that name was given. Why is that not handled to ensure there's no more deaths there or any of that? There was enough said there to know that they're in jeopardy.
Yeah.
And I was just, thinking like, we have to do better for our young men. We really do. And we all know a son, a nephew, a cousin, a brother, someone that could be going down any type of path. You got to be able to get a hold of them, because I'm telling you, I will be the D word if someone had to call shots over my son's lives, because I would voluntarily put myself there, voluntarily, because now I have to take out everyone because you came for mine. Sometimes things are just off limits. So before you take it there, guide them.
Absolutely.
I mean, the jail call just made me sick to my stomach.
And the thing is, unfortunately, and I don't want to say, but right now we're living in the new Jim Crow time. Our justice system, they're labeling Black men as criminals, which results in legal discrimination. So, you know what? That means they're already labeled. And then this is a way to legally prevent them from getting a good education, from getting equal housing, from getting food stamps, from getting a good job, and getting the necessities that they need to be productive citizens. So, what do they fall back on? What they already know.
Yeah,
Like this is carried down from generations.
yeah. And unfortunately, they always use it against, like, well, you're a product of where you come from. And
Yeah.
that's so played out. That's so played out. We'll give resources, because I know in the community I came up in, there were none. There was nothing for us to do after school. And I mean, nothing for us to do after school but to hang out.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all. And everything around us was tagged with graffiti. We didn't see picket fences and flowers. And unfortunately, that's not a fault to the child.
No.
It says the prosecution wants to play these tapes today in 2024 like they don't know what's going on in the jail. They know what jail politics are about. Yeah,
I agree.
it's all about that. And sometimes there was a case that was on that I had caught a piece of where the attorney was basically fighting for his client because he was affiliated with one gang and they purposely put him in a pod with the rival gang. And that was like his punishment for coming back. And I feel like, oh, they just had on the news like three more um, correction officers at Fulton were just arrested.
I seen that. I thought it was four. Four
Was it
women.
four?
Four women
Yeah, that's so wild. I seen
for
all of them were pretty young too.
I didn't even get a chance to read the complete article, but I seen that.
Yeah, that
With
I
bringing
mean,
contraband into the jail, having intercourse with them. Like, Jesus. Bringing them outside food.
but I'm just saying how? Because this and why I say this because I'm just gonna give you guys a clear cut. When I told you guys the other day, when I was younger, I worked in the health unit inside of the jail. And the process that I had to go through to get into work was ridiculous. I had to have my bag searched. I had to basically and make sure my pockets were emptied out. I couldn't have anything in my pockets when I went through. I had to go through like 4 doors to get buzzed. Then a guard or CO, whatever, they would have to escort me from the time I walked in all the way up to the health unit. The elevator that I was escorted in smelled like feces, urine, everything. You don't even want to push the button in there. When you get up there, I mean, basically, it's like another search again before you get into the pod. And there was cameras every single angle of, I mean, not to be funny, or you couldn't even pick your butt, pick your what, like your underwear out your butt if it's in your work scrub uniform or nothing because you're on camera. And
Yeah.
so you would always have to run to the bathroom to adjust your uniform or whatever, because I never wanted to be on camera doing any of those things. So I'm like, fixing my uniform, anything. How can you be on all those cameras and get through all of that process to get in there? And you could bring in phones, food, all of that. I could barely take my pen.
The corruption starts with the warden.
Well, I had to get up out of there. I told you I wrote a report and spoke my mind, and they were like, "Yep, nope, you can't put that much in the
Oh,
reports."
four women that were ex-employees.
Wait,
Yeah,
oh, I thought that they were working there right now.
I did too.
That's how they made it seem on the news when they covered it. It sounded like they just like got arrested, like they just figured it out. Good night,
Good night,
RD.
RD.
Yeah, there was a lot. There was a lot that was just to it today. It was really, really crazy. And when you look at all of these things and you look at all these different case laws and what they have, it's really, really insane because all of these things that are happening with this trial every single day, I'm just not understanding. Oh, the one thing I wrote down for y'all too is when she was saying about the video about the attorney pass something to Thug, and Attorney Adams had defended that and said, nope, I was right there. Then when they played the video, that's what happened. But then the judge said the state's rendition was accurate.
Yeah.
I
When
was really
someone supposed
confused.
to had given Jeffrey a Percocet or something, and he had placed it on the table.
Yeah, but when they played back the video, that wasn't what Mr. Adams said was correct. He didn't have his hand under the table, and he didn't try to conceal it. He put it right down, like directly in front of him. And so I was really confused, but there is it that looked like a really bad camera angle of that,
Mhm.
because someone posted a side view, and that's not what it the state's rendition is not what it looked like. So
Well,
it
she
was
did
really,
say
really
they were
confusing.
gonna update the audio in that courtroom. Perhaps
Yeah,
they can work on the cameras as well.
yeah. It was really crazy, just on seeing everything. I thought Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, where we're kind of done with that part. I thought maybe the judge would have kind of reflected, I should not be finishing. If you ask a question to an attorney, and before they can give you a response, or they're struggling to respond, and you give them, are you doing it for this, or are you going to use it for XYZ? You've already given them what you're going to allow, because it's your thought process. And I think that's why all the attorneys for the past couple days, but I noticed particularly today, that the eyes, the glares, and everything, that they are just like, here we go again.
Yeah, I'm sure they're just tired as well from the abuse of power that's going on in front of them and then in front of America.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a it's not a place that anyone should be having to have to go through all of this. There's a really good read, you guys. It's from United States Court of Appeals, Fourth Circuit. It's the United States of America versus Donald Sheeman Bush. And it really talks about a lot of the things that we're seeing. The defendant put his appeals for his conviction and sentence for drug conspiracy and related offenses in the District of South Carolina. The trial was conducted in October 2017. The jury convicted him of conspiring to possess and distribute cocaine and cocaine base, plus 2 charges of using communication facility to aid in the commission of drug felonies. On appeal, Bush presents 2 challenges to his convictions. First, Bush contests that the propriety of the district court's admission into evidence of a state's court record concerning his 2013 state conviction for distribution of cocaine base. Second, he maintains that the prosecution fatally erred in failing to correct the false testimony of one of its witnesses. And it really went into detail a lot, but he did went on. It says in the appeal, Bush primary challenge relates to the trial court's admission of the state conviction record. Although we generally review such as evidentiary ruling for abuse of discretion, Bush contests that it is applicable to the standard of review of the issue. More specifically, Bush maintains relying primary on a decision of the third court And they did find that all of the things thrown together, I'm going to find the exact verbiage that the judge used, but they did they overturned it on appeal through abuse of discretion by adding all of these things in, because they said that it was prejudicial. Let me see right here. And it was about intrinsic and all the language that we're hearing now. It says, according, we will review for abuse of discretion the trial court's ruling in this case that the state conviction record was intrinsic evidence of the alleged drug conspiracy. In so doing, we will identify an abuse of discretion if the court's decision was guided by erroneous legal principles or rest upon a clearly erroneous factual finding. And that talks about it more in United States versus Johnson. Says Bush contends that the trial court erred that when it ruled that the state conviction record was admissible without regard to Rule 404B because the record was intrinsic to the drug conspiracy offense. He argues that the record relates to a crime that was intrinsic to the conspiracy and that Rule 404B applied in the situation and precluded the court from admitting the state conviction record into evidence. As a general proposition, the admissibility of extrinsic evidence of other crimes, wrongs, or acts is governed by Rule 404B, point 12, and Rule 404B 1 precludes the admission of such evidence to prove a person's character in order to show that on a particular occasion, the person acted in accordance with the character. Evidence of another crime would be admissible, however, but the limited purpose specified in Rule 404B2. And they challenged it because they said that it was unrelated and it wasn't what was occurring. So it really made a difference. And they won on appeal. So think of just that. They only had 2 issues to bring. That's it. They only had 2 issues to bring. And they were able to win. Here, this is so complex. They have about 15 pages already.
Yeah.
I didn't see Pamela said the jail calls were 10 years ago.
Wow.
I thought the one that they had entered in was like more recently from how they were speaking on it.
I did too.
Yeah, it really sounded like it was like really fresh or something. But you know, you're hearing all of these things, and it's crazy because you don't know what's in the now and you don't know what's before because everything is being thrown together. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they're going to go forth, because I think after these 4 days this week, you can tell the defense and the way their facial expression of trying to hold composure, putting their head down, like the way that they're looking over to the state and to the judge, they're really discouraged. Hi, Ayana. They're
Yeah,
getting really discouraged.
because Whitaker keeps allowing these either co-conspirator statements to be in, or the hearsay, or intrinsic evidence just to be entered into the trial that's already been proceeding for however many days now, and they still cannot have a foundation to base RICO, to charge these men with RICO.
Yeah.
So they're always repositioning themselves. And it's still, nothing is still sticking. And I don't blame these attorneys. It's frustrating. It's mentally and emotionally exhausting because they have these men's lives in their hands.
Yeah, having that many lives. I really want to hear from you guys and what these 4 days, if there's anything that you guys can add, that you think that we can add to our call of action, anything that you have something valuable to add to it that you've been thinking of, or just what you're seeing. We would like to include it because we do a paragraph or two that we have to kind of give a strict description of you talk as we the people. And I'm really curious after my debate today. I'm just really curious to hear the full perspectives of the audience that we talk to. I'm very interested to see what your thoughts are, because there has been a lot that's happened over the 4 days. A lot that has happened, a lot that has came in. I think it's only been 3 that have not been allowed, and I think that is like the total. And that's that says a lot right there. And even on the points that love could not even give a proper connection, tomorrow I'm gonna count how many times that I hear "we think" or "I think," because sometimes she'll say "I think" or "we think." I just want to hear how many of the think word. And Harvey really pushed back today, and he was like, "There is no think." And I'm like, somebody finally says it. There is no think. What do you think, Kate?
There's no court tomorrow. You're right, Pamela. They'll just be back in trial, or the jury will be back on the 26th.
Wait, it's not in?
No.
Wait, I didn't. What did they cancel tomorrow for?
I don't. Oh, because like I said, they were fixing the audio. So they don't know if they're going to be able to have that room. So they're going to be out.
Oh, I thought that was already taken care of, why
No.
they went out
Well,
of court early before.
yeah. So no, it's not fixed, according to Whitaker, allegedly. So I don't know.
I think it works just fine when they pick it up and put it in front of their mouth.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think it's
Thank you
just
confirming that.
yeah. You
So
said what was that? Yeah,
Pamela just
Pamela
confirmed
knows.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, Pamela knows that, like, she knows exactly what the dates are. Like I said, guys, we have to work all day, and then we try to play the trial in the background, and then we try to catch up every time. And it's really hard to have to keep we have to keep re-reviewing it, going back to it, going back. It says every back Monday, fixing audio issues. It's just really weird because the audio kind of went funky for one day and then it came back just fine.
Allegedly.
Yeah, it did. I mean, it seems like when they pick it up and put it right in front of their mouth, then it goes back on. I mean, I could hear them just fine.
I couldn't hear Harvey. I really wanted to hear him when he was upset. I wanted to hear the words that were coming out of his mouth clear. But
Yeah,
I
he
know
got
Love heard it, and I know Weinstein, Whitaker, she was so flabbergasted. She was taken aback.
hi, beautiful one. I don't know why there's a taken back though. That is like the whole thing. Like what is your what's your deal on that though? That I mean that's the whole thing. There is no um that's the bad part of having another judge be allowed to come in at this critical point in the trial. Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, that is the bad part because she has no clue exactly everything that has occurred and how much they have dealt with to this point. They have no clue, or she has no clue. And anytime that they try to give a little bit of their frustration, it's really dismissed right away. And it's like, you know the length of the trial. You've been sitting in that room, the courtroom, long enough now to know that there is serious issues. She was handed the case dealing with ex partes or ex parte, and then another one came out. But I was kind of really disappointed that we didn't go down that line a little bit further because I mean, it kind of goes without saying something happened between June 7th. If the order was signed at 6 a.m. on June 7th, that the state said it's through a motion. But then why wasn't it called out more? That's the reason the June 10th was done.
As we
How
see,
that just
she's
kept
covering
getting
up for
dismissed.
Glanville.
Yeah, it just
And
kept getting dismissed though.
right.
And it is really protection for Glanville to not allow Steele to be able to cross. And
Absolutely.
that right there is wild in itself. Because there should be no limitation in even preventing cross on someone that is on the stand is wild.
If he were to cross, it would just show how corruption or how corrupted this case is.
Well, I tell you what, it's really going to go down when cross happens with the star witness.
Oh, yes.
That is when it is all going to go down because you're going to see a whole different dynamic.
Yes. And the
And
defense will expose everything. I know.
well, when when Steele says, well, we plan on having them for several days. He made that like known off top. This is not going to be a couple questions, a half a day cross. As long as they had them, is as long as we're going to keep them. And I couldn't agree more, is because at some point, and he's going to ask, did you feel pressured? Did you feel forced?
Yeah. And he doesn't have to say Glanville because they're going to automatic fill in the sentence. Just asking, did you feel coerced or pressured? And that's when they're gonna give their statement.
And I
Wow.
have I will have the date. We have one of the defendants' parents coming on a guest on our platform. and they are going to talk to us, and they're going to allow you guys to ask questions or come up on the on to ask any questions or whatever. We went over that today and we got to talk. So it was really refreshing. I got to meet one other of the parents. Sweet, sweet lady. So sweet. And I also have another one who's actually from Fulton, not related to the defendants, but lives in Fulton and does a lot of work and actually has a famous profession that he is in. And he wants to come on um, basically because he has a large platform. He wants to be able to come on and speak on it because he loves the work that we do. He loves that we are advocates. He loves that, we are trying to do the right thing. We support the people and we get, people involved and also the encouragement for the elections. We're waiting on a pending person to confirm if she's coming on. And it's someone that you've seen on TV 1,000 times just recently. We want everyone to come. Did you guys see the new jail update? They put it in the news. Let me pull it up for you guys. Oh, hold on. It's verifying the video. But they labeled it Inside of Fulton, where Trump will be. That is the title of it.
No.
That is, yes, they did. Yes, they did. And they did a full inside walkthrough.
No.
Yeah. I'm trying to upload it right now so they can see it.
It's like they're making a mockery out of justice. That's not
Mm-hmm.
even funny. And
No.
everything that's going on in Fulton County.
Yeah. It's
Wow.
crazy. If everyone coming in, I know that the videos circulate. I know for today and yesterday, we kind of just went over to talk about the trial stuff because this week it's all the evidence that has been happening, and things that, what I should say is what they call evidence has been happening all week. And it has been a really important week to see what was going to happen with this week. So we definitely wanted to touch base on that because it has been, we kind of pushed our schedule back because we had a plan that we were releasing, certain information at certain times. But we totally got thrown off track because of what has occurred this week with letting things in. It was so many points today where, excuse me, they struggled so bad, just like yesterday and the day before, to explain why they want this in. And even they didn't even know the voice of the other person on the phone. And it's in. And then it was the whole see, can, there was a debate on a word. that the state was saying it is, and the defense was saying no, and it was let in. But they didn't even know the wording. It was scene, city, or C. Be honest, how many can understand those jail calls? The quality is horrible. You can barely understand like every other 6 words because it goes in and out. The only thing you hear loud is, "You have 1 minute left." That's it. Yeah, quality is horrible. It definitely is. So I don't how do you argue over what are the words and who is the other person on the phone? And when when the judge asks the state and says, "Well, have you identified who that is on the other end of the phone?"
And they're
We
like, "Oh, I
think
think it may
yeah,
be." What?
yeah, yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it was.
It sounds like speculation to me.
Beautiful One says Whitaker's helping the prosecution enter evidence. The prosecution doesn't even know how to get evidence in.
Yeah,
Well, they don't need to at this point because
because
they
they
have
have
option A or option B. And if A didn't work, then they know how to maneuver over to B because the judge is asking them which one it's for. And then at the one point say, we will let this one in. Meaning we is probably not a good choice of words. So the state. And Harvey, the way that Harvey looked was, or not Harvey, Weinstein, he his look looked totally defeated. Because I do give him credit. Even with all of the things, excuse me, I don't know why. Like my I'm about to get the hiccups, I think. Weinstein was pretty fair. Oh, not pretty. He was really, really fair in all of his interviews that he's done, even with Glanville. Right before all this ex parte stuff came out, he had did an interview and he really defended Glanville and said, I think he's doing the best that he can with all the complexities of this case. I don't think that he's trying to, and then that happened and he was like, here I was wrong. I was trying to do the right thing because it's a judge and it's the right thing to do not to throw out the accusations unless you know that that's happening. But then once it comes out, but yeah, yes, beautiful one. Weinstein looks perplexed 2 days ago. Yeah, that's exactly why we pushed off our schedule on rolling out our stuff because so much has happened over the past couple days. But you feel so bad because if they would have stuck to the facts and not throw everything, they would have one file. They would have one file, and you go off that, and it would have been, it would have been presented in a way that it could have made sense. But all you hear is, I think, we think, I think, we believe. That's the other word, we believe. But the great thing that you guys got to remember, it's all on record. It's all on record. So if it does go to verdict, and by any chance that the jurors find them guilty, You do know that all of those top attorneys are going for the appeal, in which they have several instances. And one thing that is preserved is the record, because Brian still is very good at preserving the record. So when he needs to, even when things don't pertain to him or his client, he'll still stand up and kind of help out um, where he needs to. And then not only that, he puts something on the record to save the record.
Yes, I'm hoping he does do an appeal after this is over, because I did watch, he had just recently finished an appeal 2 days ago with the Supreme Court. That man, he's
Did
immaculate.
anyone catch that? It was really good, and they commended him for how he presented, because they said it was a way in the way he it made them look at it differently because of the way that he was able to speak out on it, which was a really good thing. So just him preserving that was really good.
And I think one of the judges was possibly one of his professors or his mentor, because he kept approaching him and or addressing him in that manner, other than, respecting his title,
Well,
which
he
I
has a
thought was
long
great.
history with them
Right.
because he's done over 300 appeals. So I don't know, did you see somewhere that they had a connection?
Yes, because he kept saying that.
Mm.
So I think that was just amazing. But they did not let that um, impact the appeal process, because he still had his evidence. He was still able to speak to the rest of the judges in regards to the case. So it was not a conflict of interest.
Yeah, that he presented he presented really really well, and it's got to be it's intimidating in those rooms anyway. Even when you go to the Senate and you go in, it just kind of it's I don't know why it's an intimidating place, but it shouldn't be, because that's where you advocate and you fight, but it is. So doing it in front of that many judges, and as whoever tuned into that, they can see that the judges ask questions back to back. They don't go in a row, they come just out however they think of it, they say it, they ask right on the spot. You have to be ready, you have to be prepared. And the way that he took care of that was, but he's very seasoned there too. He's had hundreds of appeals, and he has a great record, which is a good thing. He has a really good record. I mean, his reputation is solid. And I mean, look at how many attorneys showed up for him when he got arrested. The hallway was filled for him. He said Shart was on it today, and Judge went into recess. Yeah, he got fired up. He got fired up and cut off. But he has a good relationship with the judge, but it can change very fast, because you got to remember right now he's the main one up right now, because most of the stuff that is coming in is connected to his client.
Yeah.
So he's doing a lot of talking. Yeah, not recess. Yeah, they were done for the day. Not like they didn't come back. I believe that was the yes, beautiful one. Yes, it was the end. I was just remembering. I'm like, wait, they didn't come back. But he's got to pick right back up on Monday, right where he left off. Like right where he left off, like that has to be first thing Monday morning. He's got to pick right back up, but that's not going to happen because The jurors are back. And
Yeah.
then the star witness is back. I couldn't remember if they came out and said, were they done with Woody, or are they picking up? Because I know that the state had said they were going to be done with Woody by Friday. They had said that on Monday, and then Friday had came, and then he's coming back the following week, but I didn't know if they closed out with him and, it's time for cross, or they're going right back into it. I believe they still want him on direct.
Wow. I didn't know. It's so complicated and confusing because I don't know what foundation they're trying to lay with him.
With Woody?
Yeah, because he's not a great state witness, obviously, and he's committed perjury since I've seen him on the stand. And Hilton asks the same questions. Woody gives the same answers. And regardless of how she rewords it, it still doesn't make an impact for the state. And
And
when she requested to treat him as a hostile witness, there was no change.
I mean, that's for the line of questioning and to treat it differently, but there was no change in the questioning is absolutely right. There was no difference. But that's, for the record on why she's going to have to ask questions a different way, and how she was asking him, because basically she was approaching him like if he was on cross,
Yeah.
rather than direct. But that's been every single witness that has got up there.
Oh.
The one guy, when he was like, "Why am I here?" He was like, "This ain't even my case. Just send me back to prison. This ain't even my case." And that's all he kept saying.
Oh.
And
Well,
they
see.
still kept on. They still kept on. At some point, the judge has to use her discretion and
Mhm.
say, "Look, you're not getting anywhere here to keep calling them back day after day. You have to accept how they're responding." And it is as they're not accepting it. They're not accepting what the responses are, to see, "Well, I'm going to push them a little bit further to see if they'll slip up and say something." You have to take what they give you. You can't keep forcing it out, forcing it out, forcing it out. Beautiful One says, "Think back. The courtroom was a circus with Glanville." Yeah, but do you honestly think that, oh, yeah, Bean said he was high. Any other judge would have took him off the stand right there, because you're under the influence. Anybody else would have taken him off the stand and it was allowed to be continued. It's so many things that, have went wrong foundationally, that I don't even know where, anyone's headspace can be at this point. And I'm not understanding, the take on the judge. Any type of connection, even if they don't know the other party, is okay. Well, it's allowed. It's in, and it has nothing there. There's in no way to show. It's not proving anymore that they know each other, because you have pictures, you have videos, you have music, videos, you have songs where they collaborated together. You know which artists are on the label. So there's nothing further that you're proving with all of this stuff that's getting thrown at the wall. And that is where, the case that I had brought up to you guys is a really good one. And then you look at, the sale issue, which is a real big issue here, because nobody's memory is serving them right. because too many years have lapsed. It's a continuous circus that no judge that has been over it. The other two of them just recused. They just said, you know what? No, thank you. And I would have did the same thing. Um, but I thought that the way that Whitaker came in, she would have had a hold on it to not allow these type of things. And it seems like the more days that go by, it almost seems like another switch went off. Like it's the same switch we seen in Glanville. Glanville from, there was a period of time where, he was kind of letting them both have it. And then all of a sudden a switch went and then it was all against the defense. And then that's where you started seeing the connection with the state. And now something has occurred here that is just not right because Whitaker came in the same way. And now that is not the stance no more. It's like there's 5 steps. It's like she was on step 4 when she came in to kind of quiet everyone down. But she's back. She's on step 2. So it's like what's happening behind the scenes because that just can't be coincidental. It cannot be because there is a change on how she deals with them.
Do you think that she will recuse herself?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Mm-mm. No, I don't see it. I mean, the defense had motion after motion asking for recusal of Glanville, and he denied it right there. It's supposed to go to another judge, and he denied every single one of them. He refused, and he would not even give a certificate of review because he argued with Weinstein one time and said that if I give you the certificate of review, I have to cease acting. And Weinstein said, I disagree. You don't have to cease acting over the case. You just have to send this to another judge. And then he asked for a certificate of review. I mean, there was a lot of arguments that went back and forth, but everyone pretty much collectively from what I see, and I, read a lot of comments as the trial was streaming. I do, hop between all of the ones that are streaming just to give support on numbers, to, whatever, to have it count towards their page. I'll go back and look, and then I'll look through the comments and see how people are talking. And I noticed that all the chats, that is their main thing, that something has occurred with Whitaker because of the way that she is now and the way that she is handling things now. And even I don't believe that the evidence that they dealt with all week this week, the 4 days, I don't believe that that would have been the same rulings in the first week that she was there. Week 1 and 2, she was different, and now she's comfortable. And since she is comfortable, it is not happening where everyone can see. It's obvious, but there is some type of extension or some type of duress or some type of direct.
Yeah, a direct influence from someone externally that we don't see.
That we're not seeing there.
Right.
How many of you guys thought Hilton seemed a little off to me midday to the end.
Mm-hmm.
She seemed off to me, and then she sat at the back table. And then I was like, that's a little weird. And it just kind of seemed like she stayed on her phone, but she looked super, super irritated. Yes, beautiful one. She does say she keeps saying she hasn't been on the case long enough. But there's so many little things that have occurred that just makes you zero in and look at it because like today when Whitaker used the we're gonna let we will let this one in and put that down. And then yesterday it was there was a big one she said yesterday too, and then it was the finishing the sentence yesterday and giving what it's being offered for, and then it happened again today. And I'm just trying to, say like how can you say you haven't been here long enough? Oh, that's what it was. Um, when she had the when she said she hadn't been there long enough, but then there was a particular part of evidence that she started discussing, and Shart, Mr. Shart said, "We haven't went over that yet. We haven't discussed that with you." That was when Glanville was in. And so it makes you think, did she have a meeting with her chief to get an update on the case?
Possibly.
Because those are your guys' chambers. You took over a mess of a case. I'm pretty sure she's made a comment or two off the record out of court to say, oh my, I bet you're glad, you're off the case, or can you fill me in on a little bit of this? And if he already has been proven on record, then the feedback is not going to be one of an unbiased couple paragraphs of to catch her up to anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just nobody can really put their finger on it. It's all speculation at that point, but something ain't right. The water is dirty. The water is dirty. And you could only hope that the jurors, I know they've way long had enough. But what they have to deal with their pay,
Beautiful one.
there's
Probably
no way.
extra.
Yeah, there's no way for them to get an outside job unless they have one overnight. But you don't know if they have kids, a family, whatever else. You try to work third shift and then sit in a long trial all week, all during the day. It's impossible.
Yeah.
And then the court times fluctuate, so you really can't have anything too steady. So that's why they keep you out. But with the economy where it's at right now, you can't. Early voters have went in, and they said that overall there's a 2.9 increase. Eggs are increased at 19.1%. Auto insurance is increased 18.6%. Shelter is increased by 5.1%. Daycare is 5.1%. Baby food is 4.6%. And those are some of the biggest ones that just kind of stood out.
The basic
And
necessities
yeah,
to survive.
yeah. And look at, and this is all under our current.
Leadership. Yeah.
Yeah. And with the early votes, they broke it up into 4 categories: economy, immigration, abortion, and healthcare. And the top issues in deciding vote for president, 38% of them said economy. 14% said immigration, 14% said abortion, and 7% said healthcare. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that rolls out. Because with the election coming up, obviously, you know that the district attorney's seat, it comes up at the exact same time.
I'm really surprised that only 14% said that in regards to immigration.
But you got to remember it's only like 3.6% they're going off of. It's only the early votes that are in right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes off of, it says like it's only like it was like a small ratio that they had to go off of because they can only count the early votes right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just really a mess. It's really just a mess to see. And then the seat is coming up, and the election is coming up, and then you have all of the ones and all of these votes that are getting ready to be casted. Everyone is going to be on their seat to see what occurs, because if this turns out to be Mrs. Willis's first and last term for now, then you're going to have the other Miss Kramer who is running. And it's going to be really interesting to see because Georgia is a Republican state. So it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to vote. They said that, based off of the polls and the numbers and speaking to the local voting centers and the activists that are out there right now, currently educating Fulton on voting and everything on the ballot. Basically, they have been educating about where the taxpayer dollars has been going, and they have been educating about all of the issue. And it doesn't help that all of these things are out there and the entire nation is weighing in. And you got to think of those pressures on them too, because mistakes right now could mess up, future endeavors in their field. How many of you guys, if you guys were hiring, and you seen one of the prosecutors come for a job, I want you guys to drop it in the chat. Be honest. Would you hire because of the experience, or would you be
Hopefully,
running?
they would hire for morale.
Yeah.
The morale
I'm
and characteristics.
Well, you have to think you've had judges that have called her out for lack of candor. You have had judge call her out for misrepresentation of evidence. You've had a judge go after about arguing about final rulings. The one where her and Glanville went back and forth, that was crazy because he didn't stop either. But you have to look at too that people look in at ethics and ethical. They don't just look at your conviction rate. If you're a prosecutor, they're going to look at your ethics and your relationships within the community, and they're going to look at how you deal with the courts. And there has to be something else for them to maintain that same status. Like They are not changing behavior, even when told to. Beautiful One says immigration is definitely a problem. It is. Pamela said I would not hire them. I mean, you have to be example, the prosecutor on the Baldwin case. As soon as she found out that her partner she was working with had excused herself, or she had not turned over the report, she immediately excused herself because she said she has a moral and ethical duty to uphold her oath that she took, that she would not stand by those things when those things happen. And a lot of people were upset with her when she had dismissed herself. But then when that came out, they understood, then they supported her, but she didn't have that support when she left. That support didn't come until that report came. And then they understood. And when she did her interview, she said, I have a moral and ethical duty to uphold my oath that I took. And I take that very seriously. And I know what they did was wrong. And I could not stand by that. And she said there was an entire life hanging in the balance. And I couldn't just let that slide. So she takes her job very seriously. She takes her oath very seriously. And I think that anyone that goes into that field, if that is what you want to do with your life and you want to go into law and you want to be a prosecutor and you want to bring forth cases and you want to prosecute them, you have to make sure that you're upholding your oath. You're the one that took it, not the ones on trial. So if they have issues with telling the truth, they're not in that job. They didn't go down that career path. But for it to happen repeatedly, and she hasn't been removed from the case, she hasn't been suspended, she hasn't had any of those things. We see her day after day with the same behavior. And Hilton too, there's been several times where the judges let something in, and she gave a look at love like, I told you. Everyone knows what that look is when you poke your lips out and turn your head sideways real fast and look, you know, sh- quick with your neck out. I do it all the time. Everyone knows what that means. So it's just really it's really disturbing. It's just really disturbing to see that it just continuously day after day after day after day, and then we're seeing the same exact thing. But I think the light really has to be shined on Whitaker because there's changes. When you have a prosecution table that is struggling very hard to give a reason why the judge should let it in, and before they could even finish it, it's allowed, or even if what they're trying to say hasn't gotten out in a full sentence and it's allowed. Says, are you familiar with the Chevron
The
doctrine?
Chevron doctrine. I'm going to look that up.
Yes, Pamela. I think that it will change the court and police interactions. I do. Candy, do you want to pull that up for the people really fast? Beautiful One says, Fani has handcuffed the law dealing with YSL. She came straight in office after Jeff. Yeah, the announcement was made. It was there for the people. It was there for everyone. before the jurors even came in, before the jurors were selected, it was announced. It was on the news. And so that's how you know that it's personal because it was a cold case. You're coming in. She said on interviews that she came into a mess, even though she has been with them 16 years. The only difference is she was not just the ADA anymore, she was the district attorney. So I was always very confused. The little couple years that she went into private practice and did defense as a defense attorney in her firm, that was after she lost her election. She didn't get the votes. And then she did defense and then went right back in. But you were with the same office. So you have to look at where they were and what she had put out there. She said, there was a huge backlog. The jail was overcrowded and that there was deep-seated corruption. And so when you have all of that and you have rape kits piled up and um, the ballistics was piled up, evidence wasn't coming back fast enough, cases are sitting, and you have all those issues the day you get into seat that you have said you inherited. And the first thing you did was to put extra resources on a cold case. Like, you have to make it make sense. You have to make it make sense. It has to be another reason, and I covered those. I covered 2. Yes, that is correct, Pamela. Paul Howard, former DA, would not take the case. And he cited because Woody was the star witness. He said that he is not reliable. And what are you seeing 10 years later? He's still not reliable. Everyone played him, thinking that he's not intelligent, and they just don't know. He is very intelligent. He is very smart. I mean, he really didn't have much competition. He had Gaither and Detective. What's Dennis's last name? I think it was Thorpe. I think it's Thorpe. Says almost her whole term has been wrapped up in YSL. It has been. It has been. So how much of a big Thorpe? Yep, that's exactly Thorpe and Gaither. It's not hard to spin them. We seen them on the stand. Neither were professional. When they asked Detective Thorpe about, there was something they made reference to the song Life's Out. They had just played it, and he was like, it was a banger too. That was his literally, that was his response on record. He's a fan. And then you heard Detective Quinn told him to get money and basically get on. Yes, the one with the squirrel brain. Yeah, that's exactly That's what Woody referred to him as, having a bird brain. And as we seen the testimony, and we've seen Gaither's testimony, and she was not professional. She didn't have reports left behind. You can hear they how she was responding, and even a certain period of time when she was on the stand, she got smart. It was with Shart. You can tell she does not care for Shart. She said something to the effect of, I know, not I know you did. No, that's Miss Bennett when she said, I know you did it on purpose. Gaither said something. I can't remember the exact quote, so I don't want to misquote it, but she said something to Shart when he was just getting ready to like cross-examine. She had a smart comment. And it just goes to show the professionalism. But you look to see, where is the professionalism there? You're not getting it from correctional officers in the jail. You're not getting it from chief prosecutor. You're not getting it from your district attorney table. So who's professional? Like, it seems like everyone's half and half. I don't even get how that can be. And they're upholding the law that way. And they're making it spin. Detective Thorpe was, I mean, even in the, I shouldn't say that, that's mean. But in the interrogation videos that he was there, he looked lost. He did. He always was like the person sitting in. He didn't do all the talking. Dressed in shorts, a t-shirt, a lanyard on with keys. But when I looked at him there, that didn't put me in mind of an investigator that you see on these interrogation videos on TV in cases that are, in a suit and tie and some dress pants. You have him sitting there looking like he's a custodian at the school. And he's there playing with his phone, just, in his hand, just like moving it back and forth. And then you have Gaither that was basically pumping up Woody. So I don't get how this is a priority in if everything you campaigned about to get into seat, that all of this stuff was occurring and taking place. You wouldn't even have time to look at a cold case the first day you get into seat. You wouldn't even be able to make a promise like that the first day you get into seat, because what was in the now was so heavy compared to what you said in your campaign. You said it was deep-seated corruption within the courthouse. It's a big allegation. We didn't put that out there. She did. Nobody put that out there. So for them, any of them, to be offended by any of the talk that people are speaking on it, you put it out there. You can't get mad when people look into it of what you put out there. They're verifying if what you're saying is true, because if what you're saying is true, they want to vote for you. And they didn't have really a choice but to vote for you, because Howard got hit with that lawsuit right before election. that went everywhere, all over the media, all over the news, all over everywhere. So that ruined the rest of the shot that maybe he could have had. So all of the things that were alleged were right there.
Yeah, and
So
unfortunately, it is railroading everyone that is currently waiting to go to trial. So I agree with you, beautiful one.
yeah, I mean, there's nothing that is being unwrapped that she has not brought to light. And the point is, if you inherited all of this, your first day in is not going to be, um, can you guys pull all the cold cases? That's going to be after you assess your imminent emergent needs as a courthouse, as a district attorney's office. You're going to do a damage assessment of immediate changes that need to be made. You're going to look at your staffing. You were in there for years and years prior. You know who's there. You know who's good. You know who's not.
And they needed to complete the backlog because people are waiting.
And the ones that were getting fired were the ones coming out being the whistleblower.
Yep.
And then when it all gets investigated and Mrs. Merchant puts it all on record, and then all of these things trail right back to your campaign interview. Everything that was accused. So it's like, is it karma? Getting a taste of your own medicine? What is it? Because there's no way you can inherit those kind of issues and you're going to dig in a cold case as soon as you have the authority to do it. One hand washes the other to make things happen. Beautiful one. You said Fani is getting paid by someone for this case because she could pull the plug on this mess. See, I don't agree with that. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because she came out on record to say she promised the mother. That promise was made when she got in there. And you have to remember the back end tie of the relationship with Mr. York and what his profession was and what he did. So that's where I looked at it, from that perspective, because that would make it personable. And she had said that, well, you have to, eventually it is money because that conviction goes under your belt and it helps you with your numbers for campaigning to show what you've prosecuted in your term. And so another term, and when campaigns go on, everyone donates. So yeah, it's money at some point, but the intention of it was a poster board. It was a poster board prosecution. It was needed. But I just can't think as a professional, as a seasoned professional, that all of the things that you campaign about, deep-seated corruption and all of these things, and you're supposed to be the whistleblower on all of these things, and you get into office and you're pulling cold cases. You're not addressing the jail situation, the overcrowding, the bed bugs, the deaths that are happening in there. Body after body, literally. and all the rape kits, all the evidence for ballistics, all of those things that you have to look at. The first thing you have to look at is internal. Look at the young woman who came forward about the grant money. She was doing her job and letting her know what the guidelines are that the government sets. And we know the government sets heavy guidelines on funds. It is heavily regulated. They tell you exactly what it's supposed to be for. There's not a if. What you do with it, on the other hand, is a whole different story. But there's a lot of money. There's a lot of money. So, it's just the explanation of that. And Love and Hilton don't have, or Mr. Atkins don't have the power to pull the plug on it. They have to have permission. They have to have approval. And it's not going to come from her. But if Kramer gets in, what do you guys think is going to happen with Love and Hilton? Miss Love ran in another neighboring county when Fonnie ran for DA. Miss Love was running for DA at the same exact time in a neighboring county. She lost and then went back to Fulton and got promoted as chief under Fonnie. So if Fonnie loses seat in November, what do you think is going to happen to the ones that are in there? And will Miss Kramer bring back the woman who was over the grants, that was doing the rightful thing over the grants? The grant money is a big thing because there's heavy stipulations on it, and you got to have receipts. You got to track every single part of those funds, so that way when it's requested to see how it was spent, but not only that, it should have more oversight. Will you bring back the ones that shouldn't have been let go? Beautiful one said, fine. Like Woody, she's fine. And everybody thought it was so intentional. Pamela says there are a lot of dots that still need to be connected. I don't think we have connected all of them yet. There are a lot of dots. There are a lot of dots, and I'm going to tell you, we need 3 more dots, and we got it. I need 3 more dots. I got the first 10. And it's deep. It's really, really deep, but it's sad because you always want to promote women in higher positions. You always want to promote minority women in higher positions. I'm all for that. So it's a disappointment to me on that end of it. Because yes, I expect you guys to do your job. That's what you guys do for a living, but you can't do it crooked. If defense attorneys have to abide by the rules and play by the rules with the judge and the state just makes the rules and it does whatever they want, at this point, there's no law. There's nothing that's saving them or protecting them or anything. But there is a lot of people. I just really want to know Mr. Atkins' point of view, because there's times that you can see on his face when he is trying to talk. I don't know. Have you guys noticed that when um, Love is getting ready to explain something, both of them chime in with her immediately, and then she's got to pause. So it's like, why even have her have the microphone? Give it to them, because they're telling you, or they'll shake their head, she says the wrong thing, and then she'll correct it. This is all on the record. Every single time they change their mind on things or change their explanation, how many times have you heard the defense stand up? Well, you just said it was for this, now you're saying it's for this. That's all on the record. Can you literally imagine the amount of paperwork that would have to go to the Court of Appeals for them to actually see this and read through it? They're going to think that there's no way this is real. Beautiful One says they are not finished with Fonnie, believe me. No, I mean, I think that the between the Trump trial and the YSL trial and the YFN trial really did the number. It really, really did the number. And you look at all the other things that were pushed off to the side. Candy, were you able to find that piece? She had,
Yes.
you want to
Let
cover it
me,
really quick?
I'll share it so they can go.
Okay,
I'll
I'm going to
share
let you
it.
take over really quick. I just got to step away for 60 seconds.
Okay. Let me get it for you guys. Can you guys see my screen? Okay, so here is what the Chevron doctrine is. So during the Grosh nomination, there were a lot of talk in the press about the Chevron doctrination. Most people have never heard of the doctrine. And thank you for letting me know, because I've never heard of this. And only a few are aware of all the nuances. As the Trump administration's rulemaking effort comes before the courts, we're going to be hearing a lot more about it. As the court's 2017 term gets underway, I thought this would be a good time to give a roadmap to the doctrine. In fact, error, we've already seen a short opinion from Justice Grosh questioning the application of the doctrine. The Chevron doctrine is a rule about the court review of agency actions that many scholars consider central to modern administrative laws. That doctrine calls for judges to accept reasonable interpretation of a statute by the administrative agency, even if the judge might have favored different interpretations themselves. And this is an example of what's going on right now in the case. It's being exposed today. The Supreme Court has cited two reasons to give the agency the power to intercept ambiguous statute. One, agencies are more democratically acceptable than courts. And then two, Congress has given the agency the main responsibility for implementing the statute. Okay. Even before the Chevron, courts agreed that the agency's statutory arguments were entitled to respectful consideration given an agency expertise about the statute it administers and the particular and technical issues involved in implementing the law. This is now known as the Skidmore deference. But the Chevron upped the level of the deference to the agency. It created a two-step test. Step one, is the statute meaning clear? If so, that meaning controls. Step two, if the statute is ambiguous, the agency's interpretation will be upheld by the court, provided that it is reasonable, even if the court would have chosen an alternative inter- interpretation. The application
Mm.
of Chevron was limited by the United States versus Meade Corporation, right? The Meade court held the Chevron difference should apply only where Congress delegated authority to the agency, generally to make rules carry the force of the law, and the agency interpretation claiming difference was wait, promulgated. Ooh, how do you say that word? Well, that word, an exercise of the authority. In Meade, the court decided that the procedures Congress set out for the agencies did not indicate any intentions to grant the agency rulemaking authorities, so the agency received only Skidmore deference. Its views were considered respectfully due to the agency's expertise, but ultimately, the court made its own independent judgment of how to interpret the statute. So that's kind of where the Constitution,
Oh, that's
the
heavy.
right for number 9 of the Constitution. Wow. Okay. So after Meade, the Chevron test had 3 steps. Step 0, does the agency have authority to issue binding legal rules? If the answer is no, Chevron does not apply, but any agency may still receive some lesser degree of deference because of its expertise. If the answer is yes, the analysis moves to step 1. Step 1, is the statute ambiguous? If not, the court simply decides the interpretation of the statute by itself. Otherwise, the analysis moves to step 2. So, step 2, is the agency interpretation reasonable, even if the court itself would have chosen a different interpretation? Hmm. Okay. Step 1 of Chevron enables reviews courts to preserve their traditional authority over determining statutory meaning. If the court proceeds to step 2, however, the permissible inquiry is similar to arbitrary or capricious review. If the agency's interpretation is reasonable, it has typically been upheld, at least in the past. Things have gotten even more complicated, it sounds like, since Meade. The most important case expanding step 0 is crucial issues about interpretation of the Affordable Care Act, also called the Obamacare, which we've all heard of. Reading the language of one section of the law literally would have destroyed the main purpose of the statute, which was to make health insurance available to all Americans. The majority opinions by the Chief Justice Robert declined to apply the Chevron and instead interpreted the statute without regard to the agency's interpretation. Wow. The dissenter, including all of the textuals, did not even cite the Chevron. In other less famous cases, Conservatives argued strongly for the expansion of Step Zero to include some of the cases of statutory conflict in, I don't know what that is, Sisaba versus Solerado. How do you pronounce that? Osorio? Okay. So
I'm
two
sorry,
provisions of,
I was muted and I was
no, you're
responding.
fine.
Um,
But two
I
provisions
can't
of the
see.
immigration
I
statute,
can't
huh?
see, so I'm just hearing you. I can't
You
see. I
can't
don't have my
see?
glasses on, and I don't know if anyone
Oh,
else can
okay.
kind of see it, but it's really, really small on the screen, but it's okay.
It's
Um,
too, want me to make, okay. So I'm just gonna leave it like that.
I don't know if
Okay, so
you're reading along, but it's like really,
that's
really
fine.
small.
It's too small for everyone?
Um,
Is that better for you? Okay. Well,
go one more,
anyway, in
Can.
separate, can you see it?
Go one more, please.
Then it's gonna be too
Oh,
big for
yeah,
me.
that's
Okay.
great.
That's good. Okay.
That's
In
perfect.
separate in separate opinions, Chief Justice Roberts, Justice Cecilia, and Justice Alito contended that the Chevron difference did not apply when a statute provisions are directly contradictory. Applications of step one. Is the statute ambiguous? Is complicated by the fact that the justices don't entirely agree on how to interpret statute, and thus they also disagree about how to decide whether a statute has a clear-cut meaning. Some follow a theory called textualism, which focuses on interpreting the language of the statute. Others follow the propovism, which focus on the statute purpose and legislative history. The Chevron Step 2 was the agency responsible, has also evolved. In the Michigan versus EPA, the court rejected the EPA interpretation of Chevron Step 2, brushing aside the agency's arguments that its interpretation fit with the statute as a whole. The court considered the interpretation unreasonable because it did not seem to be the sensible policy. In an opinion by the Justice Cecilia, the court said one would not say that it is even rational, never mind appropriate, to impose millions of dollars in economics costs in return for a few dollars in the health or environmental benefits. Justice Cecilia continued that there are undoubtedly settings in which the phrase appropriate and necessary does not encompass cost. But he said, this is not one of them. Although the term appropriate is very broad and would seem to give a great desertion to EPA to decide what is appropriate, there was no indication of any deference to EPA's view of the statute. Michigan could be a signal that the amount of deference at Chevron Step 2 is being reduced. In these three recent cases,
Hey,
some
Can,
of all
how many
justices
pages
have
is
refused
this?
to apply Chevron at all. It's four, but we're almost done.
Okay. No, I'm
Or we
wondering
can
because
leave
I
it
was
there.
wondering if it was small or small enough for us to be able
Too
to
big?
also put the link in for them, so they can have it, for
Absolutely.
themselves
That's
too.
what
We
I
just
was going to do initially, but can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Yeah, I can go ahead and put the link in. But I'm so happy that I've got to see this and read on it. It seems very complicated.
Mhm. But I think it really is gonna change the interaction because it's really, drawing that line,
Absolutely.
and it's really good, information, to be able to have, to be able to give them.
So let me copy this for you guys.
What part are we on? We're on 4, right? Page 4?
Page 3.
Page 3.
Yeah, but I'm gonna go ahead and copy it in here. Oh,
I know you're getting tired reading it. I'm
I
like, I don't
am. My
want to.
throat is dry and I'm heading to bed.
I know. Yeah, Janelle couldn't see it either. My eyesight is really bad if I don't have my glasses
Sorry,
on.
Janelle.
I know she was trying to read along. She's preparing she's she's preparing her dinner for tomorrow, so she's in the kitchen listening to us, and she must have been trying to peek and read. And I know if I don't have my glasses on, I'm not reading anything.
Look, I was being an audiobook.
Look, I already know when my partner is getting tired, her throat will start to get scratchy, and then I gotta save her because she's like, "Why did?" She'll yell at me afterwards and say, "Why didn't you help me?" And I can't read anything without my glasses. We do a lot of work during the day, and the computer screens are always in front of us. So, when you get down late at night, and we've been going on late, and I feel like Paige actually just, said to go live earlier. Most of our stuff is
That's what we're
rewatched
gonna
during the
try.
day. Most of our stuff is rewatched during the day. And so at nighttime, it is harder because everyone has to get up in the morning early in the morning, and we do too. But we always want to try to deliver and give everything to you guys what we have lined up and to keep on educating
Sorry.
on the information that comes for us. And I think it's really excited that you guys get to hear from the families that are directly affected with this going on, and you can get an inside look on how they are feeling because that's their loved one sitting there. So imagine you guys outraged with no connection, and then how they feel because they see what's going on here every single day that they walk in, this is happening. Can you just imagine your loved one being turned every which way but loose, and there's nothing you can do but sit on that bench and watch? You can't yell out, you can't speak up, you can't do nothing. You have to sit there mute and sit on that bench. And it really is, to have it go on this long, the emotional stress, the mental stress, the physical stress that it puts on your body. You have to think these young men, their parents are old, they're getting up there in age. These young men are older now. They're not young like when they were charged. They're old now. They're older. And so you only know that what goes with that, their parents are older. And as we get older, the health declines. And having this type of trial that sits on top of them just adds to all of that. And it does not help that it's drug out for this long. And you are seeing all of these things occur. How many of you guys think that this is going to verdict? I'm really curious to see what you guys think. Do you guys think that at some point Whitaker will draw a mistrial? Because there is a situation hanging in the balance that she said they had to come back to because it could be a mistrial. Pamela does not think so. Um, Beautiful one thinks that it will go to verdict. You hope not. You hope not. You would hope not, because there's been so many instances. Everyone deserves a fair, just trial. No one deserves, when you hear all of these things that are occurring, um, that has already occurred, it just wouldn't happen in another courtroom in a different place. I've sat in, as a juror before, and that judge was so strict on both sides. You could absolutely tell there was no extension anywhere, and it was, a murder trial, and I got to sit on both sides that same year. I got to sit on both sides. I was a juror sitting in on a murder trial, and then that same year, later on that year, I was sitting as the family member to one that was murdered. So there's a lot that's a beautiful one. Um, there was what they covered on, I believe it was Monday, when they had argument over, I believe it was Steele's motion. And there's something that is hanging out there. I will go back and pull it up, and give it to you tomorrow. But I know she said that based off of that it could be a mistrial based off of that information. I'll go exactly back to it, but I wanna say that it was Monday and not Tuesday. And she said that that was gonna have to be handled, and I know that, it is going to be, I believe, as soon as Woody is finished. Janelle, I don't think so. It says the judge will declare mistrial if she can catch the prosecution on a Brady or something really egregious. The Brady has already been, that happened already. And because she had them turn it over and they got it, she said it was no longer Brady. And what their remedy for that was is the entire prosecution team had to go to the court, and basically they have an officer of the court there that sits and verifies that you watch the pre-recorded video on what is Brady. And that was the court's remedy for that issue. Yes, beautiful one. I believe that was Monday. I'll get the exact issue of what it was, but it's really concerning. It's just really concerning everything that you have, and it just makes us fight that much harder. We know that the call of action is right. We know that, the steps that we're putting in place to be heard is right. We don't want to, tear down anyone's character, but we do want to bring to light the things that are happening, and to also, say like we expected more um, from these women, and especially for Mrs. Willis, having that type of position and power. And she has, I think it said 2 daughters, and it looks like they're a little bit older. She is their example. And you've made a great career professional stance with your children for them to be able to see, but now they're seeing their mother being tore down in the public light on every single aspect, and I know that probably wasn't what she was thinking when she got into that seat. But it's kinda like how you I think it would have been more respected, or things probably wouldn't have came back that way if her campaign did not involve tearing down the person that mentored her. And you can really tell that love would definitely run. Kramer takes over and the next term comes, love would definitely run if she was still around, because she wanted to be a district attorney. That's why she tried in a neighboring county. But I just look at things always, like every single angle. I think about the daughters that have to watch their mother be tore down in the light. And then I look at, the defense, how many countless hours they're away from their family because they have to keep preparing for a case because something unexpected came to them that day. And now they got to work on it for 12 more hours. I know the feeling. I had a boss like that. And the last little piece of information is a big piece. And then I have 10 to 12 more hours of work before I would go in the next day. So I just look at every single aspect. And that's why we said in the beginning, in the very, very beginning, that, we were not interested in outfits for the day. We weren't interested in um, any of that, but we just want to try to be respectful to all sides. But we just want to say that, they deserve due process. They deserve a fair trial. They deserve to have their constitutional rights preserved. They deserve to have the speedy trial that was requested. They deserve to have a case presented to them, organized and in a readily fashion. And it's like everything that was done to run in the campaign came out once the Trump RICO came. And that is exactly when everything hit the fan. And I mean, everything hit the fan. And it all came out. But do you guys find it weird that it, like just so happens that it's coming out around the same exact time when Paul Howard's did, right before he was out of seat? And these are all the same things that were alleged, like identical. And I know she's probably looking back at it now, but is it by fate? Is it by coincidence? Is it by karma?
No, it's by election year.
Well, these things start rolling out last year.
Yeah,
But
but
I
we
mean,
already
so
know
far
when
as
election comes around.
yeah, yeah, the election gets dirty. And you guys have to remember, there, even though you're a district attorney, you're high in the county level. But on the state and the national level, you're on the bottom of the totem pole.
Yeah.
So you have to remember there's two totem poles. She's on the top of one and the bottom of the other.
Yeah.
And every time stuff like this comes to light, you have to remember that there is that hierarchy that we keep talking about. And you have senators that, want to hear the information. They want to be able to write those bills and push them up and be able to hear your argument. Have any of you guys been to Washington, D.C. and been inside of there? When they hold the hearings in there, it looks so crazy because they are up so high. Like, it's not like when you walk in a courtroom, everything is on. They're sitting up so high, and it makes you feel like the room is that much more powerful because it's these big, high, huge, tall cathedral ceilings and all of the, natural woodwork in there and I don't know. I was taken away. I loved it. When I walked in, it just made me feel like, there was a lot of power within that room. And I've advocated there. I was successful. It felt great. We celebrated. It was great for us. And it's a good feeling. And here we just know, like, okay, these things aren't acceptable. They're not okay. Well, what can you do to help fix the situation, and what can you do to do it without tearing every single buddy down? Janelle says, I've been to DC, but not in the building. You should join us in October, Janelle. You should join us in October. I'm trying to get a final number to see how many are going to be allowed with us, but we do have to preserve 3 seats for 3 members of a family. Beautiful One says, yes, think Fani thought she was untouchable. Well, you have to kind of think, like, county-wise, you are up there. County-wise, you are up there, to call those shots within there. And district attorneys do have a lot of power within the county level. But nobody is untouchable. Nobody is untouchable. No position out there is untouchable. As you guys can see, a president is not untouchable. You see our former president hit with a RICO. Where have we seen that? I remember in history coming up, everybody honored the president because of the position they were sitting in. And when you're older, and as what we've been seeing, and everyone's been coming in seat, you just don't see that no more. And the times have really changed on how you rally and you campaign. I think it's really bad that they get to tear each other down during that process of campaigning to we the people, to get the vote. I don't think that you should be allowed to personally attack each other. I think it should be factual. It should stick to facts only. The personal feelings and opinions should not be allowed. And that's something that needs to be changed. Because the people don't need to hear that, and that's what riles them up. The people need to hear exact facts. And all the communities care about are these inflations right now because families are out there suffering. No community can afford taxpayer dollars to be thrown away in this manner. And I think it did take a lot out of the Kramer campaign to come out for official press release and to say, I'm throwing this out. I get into seat, this is going away. I have better things to do with taxpayer dollars to fix the community that I live in. Because she said she was born, raised, and still living in Fulton, so she's deep rooted there. And it takes a lot of guts to come out and say that, and to put it on an official press release to say, look, this is where I'm drawing the line. These taxpayer dollars need to go elsewhere. There are way too many other conditions, and the community that she's still residing in is not safe. The prosecutors that are there, they're not in that county. They don't live in that county. So they're not dealing with the crime one-on-one and having to worry about it be their home, their car, or having to deal with the violence that they're seeing. They're not living there. They're working there. It's a big difference. Another big difference, they're not born and raised there. So that deep-rooted give back to your community is not there. I don't know. I don't live where I was raised at. I'm not in the same state, but I still give back there. I still do things that I was connected to. I still contributed when I was there to the community. And I made sure that I was doing things to contribute to the community. Fani was not born and raised there. She was born in California and raised in DC, and then came Georgia. And Simone is not born and bred there. So you have to understand the difference too. And I want to see if you guys think there's a difference from working in a community to being born and raised in the community. You're going to take that community a lot more at heart because you're going to remember things from your childhood that are no longer where they weren't present. So if you have someone that has the love and care genuine for that community and still within that community and they want to make it safe, I'm definitely going to hear what they have to offer. And if you can step out as an attorney and say this is unjust and you're right there with alongside of them, that takes a lot of nerve. Beautiful one says she stepped out of her league going after Trump. Yeah, it was very interesting to see that. I recently seen, I'm going to share it with you guys on our voter day, with our voter education when our guest comes on. I'm going to share something with you guys. They actually did another, they said that they wanted to order to recount the ballots and they put an order in to do it and they said there was no change. So it's really funny that, that was let go of once it happened and he went into presidency. And then when he started running again, now that's coming back again. And those charges and the RICO came. But that whole trial, does anyone know when that trial is scheduled to begin again? Because I never seen if it was supposed to resume, and I thought that it was on pause until the investigation that they had launched was complete on Mrs. Willis. But then they opened up a secondary investigation, and now there's another investigation that they had announced. So not only is it happening on a county level, you have it at a state level, and then also you have it on a federal level. So it's pretty, it's pretty scary when you have all of those investigations open and you're still pushing forth and you have your prosecution team making some serious mistakes. These are serious mistakes that you would expect from a rookie. You would expect these from a rookie. You would not expect these from veteran district attorneys, ADAs, or a chief district attorney. So there's a big difference. We're not here to persuade anyone to go with one side or the other. We want to look at both sides. And what we see is rookie moves and mistakes being made in a high profile case. Yes, beautiful one. You're absolutely right. Being raised there makes it close to heart. Yeah, so you're really going to care about a lot more things because the memory is there, the history is there, and you have ones that are running it that were not born and raised there. So their connection is not there. They ended up there through college and work and stayed. And a lot of people will say, well, it doesn't matter where you are as long as you're able to do your job, but it really does make a difference when you have that history. And a lot of the ones that are right there in that courtroom on the defense, that is their community. Do you think they would be around this long with nothing going on, if this had been occurring their whole time through their profession? No. These things would not be going on, and they would just be sitting around. So it lets you know, and it's scary. This is her first term, her very first term. And she said that in her interview, she said that many people had told her, had been begging her to run prior to when she did. And that was very interesting to me because she did run 3 years prior. Is what December, beautiful one. Yes, Janelle. I totally agree. I totally agree. What's in December, beautiful one? Excuse me. The trial or election? Just seeing. I'm s- I'm not sure what I'm not sure what you're asking. They're saying votes are missing in Georgia for now or the last election. I know the last election, when Trump was coming in, that's what they had said. I didn't see, I know that they're talking about recounting the votes, but it's not actually for this term. They had a new person come into position that wanted to reopen and recount, and it was advised against from a hierarchy, and it was done anyway, and the results were it was still the same. I mean, she won her primary. Her defendant was Wise Smith, and he only had 13% of the vote. Miss Willis took 87%, so she dominated over him. And then Kramer had 100% of her votes. It was uncontested. Says, yes, the prosecution is fumbling, and now they're laughing with Whitaker. Yeah, and you see how that was very different? And that's what I meant earlier by that. That's exactly what I meant by that earlier, was you do see the change because you could tell there was, right in the beginning, the very first week that they were in with the new judge, when Love had got up and she tried to cut off one of the defense, and the judge is like, "1 person at a time," and then she was gonna say something else, and then Love just kinda waved her hand off like, "Ah, forget it," and then she walked away and had a seat. So that was her direct message that she was not able to get away with it, and that wasn't gonna be allowed there. And Whitaker has had this, like, Candy calls it like a nervous tick laugh. Candy always says it's a nervous tick laugh, but I don't know, like some of the comments are totally inappropriate. Like even the one she said to Love when she was like, "Well, I don't know if, you can ask him, but I don't know if he's talking to you yet." And she started laughing, and she meant that with Steele and um Love because of their relationship, and that is childish. As a professional, you are a judge. Like, you are supposed to die that down and see what ways you can mend that, because that's not even nowhere near okay if you see that the defense cannot communicate with her because of the way she is behaving. Those are behavioral issues, ethical issues. Those are characteristics. You wouldn't keep repeating those things it if it was like if you misspoke on something and you didn't mean to not be candid with the court. Oh, okay, beautiful one. Thank you for that clarification. You said Trump trial in December. How is that gonna how is that gonna work? Um, because if he's president, it's no longer valid. That's why they're trying to try it before November. That was the whole push on why Wade had resigned, so the trial can keep going. But since they then went to say Miss Willis needed to be off, then that's when everything went. Janelle says, "We the people just want to see true justice under the law. I started watching to see for myself if what I had been hearing was really happening. To my surprise and horror, it was worse." That's absolutely right. Yes, beautiful one. Thank you. Yes. But yep, thank you for that clarification. I actually just marked it down so that way I can see, I can follow up to see what date. But yes, Janelle, you are totally correct. I didn't believe it in the beginning. I didn't want to believe what I was seeing. I was like, oh, you know what? It's got to be like way too much it's got to be way too much for them to handle, or there's got to be something that's went wrong. And then I seen the delays, and then once I seen that the jury selection took almost 11 months, I was like, that is crazy. When I was a juror for the murder trial, the jury selection was done in 4 days, and there was 1,500 of us. Says, I saw something, beautiful one says, I saw something recently about missing votes. They have been in court about it. Huh. I'll look into see. I have been following the one that they re-brought up the issue from 4 years ago. So I know that they are back digging into that right now. So that very well could be. I do know that it was advised against through a letter of recommendation. If you guys want to see it, I can share it with you guys on our voter education day with our special guests. I'm going to write that down now for you guys. Yes, Janelle, absolutely crazy. I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. A lot of people were telling me, like, you really, really have, to look in, you really have to look into it. And then when I did, I started writing things down, and I would watch, always watch the trial stream on Miss Sylvia's page. And then I would write down things that I could advocate and be able to help fight to make a change. And then I was able to get in contact with the family. Pamela, you do have to go back to the beginning. You do. It's a must. And you know what? Don't even get discouraged that we're on like a day 115, because I'm going to be 100% honest with you. You're going to see huge breaks in between the day that you're going to be fast forwarding through a whole bunch of pauses. So catching up. My partner, that is on the call of action, she came in late too, and she was able to catch up very fast because of all the pauses and how many times the jurors have been out. Like, she was able to catch up super fast. Yes, beautiful one, that is true. What occurs encouraging, well, it was the laugh. The laugh was inappropriate. It's to say that, but it actually, as a judge, should have been concerning for her that a defense attorney cannot even have a conversation with a chief prosecutor, that he has to go to the DA to be able to speak about the case that's not even in the courtroom. That's a big deal. And to laugh at it and kind of throw it out there and say, well, why don't you ask Mr. Steele? Well, he's not talking to you yet. And it's childish. It is very childish, because as a professional and you are a judge, you are supposed to help mend that immediately. Because regardless if you're defense or you're the state, they're all attorneys, and their licensure all comes from the same place. And so you got to have some type of rapport. You're going to deal with them again after this trial, because there's more defendants that have to be represented, and there's going to be them on cases that they're going to have to try. So even putting that out there and to put a laugh with it is just not acceptable. And that's what I say on the professionalism that's there. It's like, they got to have ethics training again, like mandatory. Even when I watched the council meeting, it was Mrs. Willis and Mr. Labatt, the sheriff, that went in, and they were there to discuss funds, and they went in hostile. I have never seen nothing like that. Like, I have never seen nothing like that. She was very aggressive in her demeanor. She had her arms crossed. She asked, "Where are them funds? We need them funds." And yelling it and then backing up. And she's like, she's antsy, she's pacing, her arms are crossed, lets them know, gives them the first signal that she's in defense mode. That is the first defensive mechanism that everyone can read. And you're speaking to all of them sitting in front of you. And that is where your funds that you are asking for are coming from. And that is the manner that you're communicating it to. Like, what I'm saying is there has to be a different way. Like, that should not be tolerated. You can advocate that very same message in a professional manner and make it hit 10 times harder if you would have put it into context. And then you fight for the lack of oversight on it. That's a red flag there. Beautiful one. You said, what was that? You don't want to put out any wrong information so please fact check. Yes, I wrote it down. Beautiful one. Don't worry. I wrote it down to look at it. I did. Yeah, so that's okay. I asked and you went off of what you thought you remembered. So I appreciate it either way, but I wrote it down to check to see what day it does go back in, because I'm pretty sure inquiring minds of the people want to know too. But it's just the professionalism on it. There's ways to communicate, there's ways to do things, and that shouldn't be allowed. And I was very surprised that they allowed that. And even when Mr. Labatt had got up there and he did his, he got very angry. You could see that his neck and his face was like turning a little bit red, and then he was pointing his finger. That's offensive. And I get your guys' position, but you got to remember they're over you. And not only that, like you should have a form of respect, even if you're upset. Someone has to draw the line on professionalism because they could have been just as effective had they did it in a professional way and put it in a professional context for them to understand the dire need of the funding that has been requested. If your community is in dire need of these funds, come in and do your plea and give them facts and give them the issues that you're facing because these funds have not been released. But when you walk up to their microphone and say, we need them funds, where are those funds? It's like, whoa, this ain't a stick up. You have to be able to communicate and be able to be able to put all those emotions aside. You cannot have an emotional leader. It is proven that mistakes are made when you lead by emotion. When you're in a position like that, you have to know how to contain it. Even it does not matter how upset you are with them or how late those funds are or what has occurred, you can get your message across appropriately without having to do that. It says, beautiful one. Yes, not speaking directly to love can also be a communication issue between the two sides. Absolutely. It makes their work 10 times harder because the line of communication is not there. Look at how it was the day when Whitaker said, I'm going to recess for an hour. I'm going to actually go in the back, read some case law about what we just discussed. And then you guys get with each other right now while you're in here and discuss this. And they did it by email, right in the same room. Like that should be talked about. And so the same behavior that you've seen about requesting the funds is the same behavior you've seen when she hit the stand. And I get she was upset. There were some very personable questions. And because I was ignorant to prior issues in the trial and what had led up, I had tuned in when it broke the news that she was hitting the witness stand because I didn't think anything was happening that fast in the trial that it was going to be real important to tune in right away. Because when we go to tune in, we look at several days worth so that way we can not have to tune in second by second, hour by hour. And it was the same demeanor. They were advising her not to go, and she wanted to go. And the first she sat down angry, she crossed those arms again. And so that lets you know right away she has put up her defense mechanism. Immediately it was in. So I tuned in at that part of the trial. So from the YSL, I was tuned in from day one. On the Trump, I had tuned in when it hit the news about what Mrs. Merchant had put forward. That's when I tuned into that side. And when she was being questioned certain things, I can tell you I was ignorant saying, what does this matter? And then it came out why it mattered. That's when they started questioning. I said, well, who is this guy, Mr. Wade? Like, why is it important? And then I found out he was a special prosecutor. And then I found out his salary. And then I was like, And then I seen what he previously made prior to this huge salary. I mean, his income ladder went from it shot way up, way up. If anybody puts that kind of money in your face, you're going to do whatever they tell you to do. I don't care what anyone says. He wasn't turning that down for that amount of money. But look at all the other ones that are within that courthouse that are working hard, that have lost their jobs because they've done the right thing and also taken pay cuts in jobs. The young woman said, she was over the grants. And then she got moved to a totally different building putting together papers. Can you imagine what that did to her pocket? It's just bringing the different things, to light and expectations. And these are like minimal. These are minimal things. It doesn't even go to skill set. These are just ethical characteristics and behavioral issues that everyone is going into. That is exactly what it is. And then you look at the ones that are doing the right thing and upholding and trying to be respectful of the court, and they totally get, um, there's no right word, they get arrested. And so all of these things that are occurring, you just look at it and you hope more because I was so happy. I always celebrate women when they move into professional hierarchy positions because they're long overdue, and that's not how it was back then. Janelle says, I believe it was DA Fani appearance on the stand that opened the door to all of this, especially her connection to YSL. Yeah, the press releases did not help. When she said she put extra resources on the ground, on the case, how many people. So you got to know that's extra resources, extra money, extra funding. And then when she said she made a personal promise to the mother, that, when she called her and said that she had delivered the best Mother's Day gift, and it was through the prosecution of the RICO, that makes you open your eyes, and then you have it there. And why I say that is because not only that too, why the behavioral makes a difference is, she has daughters that are looking in at this, and she sees, you know, she's being tore down in every single way on all platforms, from the news to the newspaper, to social media platforms, all of it. And her children have to suffer those consequences as well, unfortunately. That's their mom, so they're gonna, feel some type of way. So you just look at all aspects and you look at everything as a whole, and at minimum, we expected more than that. It should not be acceptable, but I think that is what, especially during the testimonial part where the yes and no questions, and it would go into a very long explanation, and then they would have to redirect to say, this is a yes or a no. And then it would be another long, and the judge having to give warnings. And it was just a lot, demanding paperwork to be in front of her. It's just not a good way to be able to deal with people that you're going to have to deal with all the time, because there's more cases than just those two RICOs that will take place. So you want more. Not only do you want more, it's an expectation. So the ethics training definitely has to take place because love is not going to clean up her behavior because there's a prime example that she could use. If you can do it and you got away with it, what makes me different? And I didn't see Hilton having that type of behavior in the beginning, but it is certainly rubbing off on her. There's several different things that she has done sitting there with her expressions and the way she has reacted when the judge has ruled in favor of the state. The look that she will give, like, I told you, and you just don't see it. It really shined a huge spotlight, and I believe if she would have walked in there and handled herself professionally and to communicate it effectively, and the emotions were not on her sleeve, I don't think it would have launched as far as it did, and I don't think that they would have felt that they needed an internal investigation or external investigation into any of it because she would have came off as a whole different way. But the way that her demeanor was set her up basically for the next thing that came. And Ashley came, Mrs. Merchant, with travel records, all of that. I mean, you did hear Miss Willis say, I don't think I've ever been to vacation with Mr. Wade in Florida. And then 2 minutes later, 1 minute, whatever it is, she goes, well, I remember we got on a boat there, a cruise ship there, and we might have stayed the night when we arrived or maybe when we came back, but you just said you never been there. And so it was so much back and forth. And my mama, who is older, was sitting and listening to it, and she said, I'm getting confused. I done counted 7 vacations now. And I said, just turn it off, mama, because you're getting yourself worked up. And then I looked at it from Wade's side and point of view. He has a wife, and his wife had to hear about these vacations. And his wife had to hear about vacations with his mother and, on the vacations. Not only that, they both got children on both sides that got to unwrap that as well. So it was a lot on the stand. Janelle, that's exactly right. It opened up a floodgate to investigation. That's exactly what it did. But it did rub a lot of people the wrong way was through demeanor, and that was the same demeanor that she requested the funds. And when Mr. Labat was aside of her, he referred to her as his sister right there. That is true, Pamela. Wade's wife does have health issues, and that definitely takes a toll. And she probably feels powerless because that is a DA. But can you imagine you have health issues, your husband is out on vacations, and you're bringing your mama along with you, and you guys are out spending and having a good time doing all of these things? Insane. And Beautiful One says, yes, and his dumb butt, in parentheses, Wade, was getting used. I don't even think he was being used. He was paid very well. I mean, it looked like he was very happy to be in the seat that he was in with the pay that he was receiving. But he's gotta be feeling it now going back to what he made before. And I believe on the record, it was like 100 and something thousand a year. That's not anything compared to 8000000. Janelle says, "Yes, Ashley Merchant made me stand up and cheer, but I was expected to be cheering ADA Love and Hilton on." Wow. Wow. Yeah, that makes, I hear that from so many, Janelle. I hear that from so many. They said they said, "I was totally fooled, and this is not what they expected." And you have to look at longevity. So you obviously know if Miss Kramer will get into seat, they are known as Mrs. Willis's, those are her sidekicks, Hilton and Love. I mean, Love did get chief. And I can tell you there will be probably a huge issue under that roof very fast, when it comes to the three. So you look at, could it be potentially that, they could be on the job market here in 3 months, 2.5 months, less than 2.5 months, and I'll say 2 months. They could be either going into their own practice or going to another county. But now, since the neighboring counties have weighed in and they're afraid that they are smearing, the reps of DAs across the entire state, and they want the people to know that not all district attorneys operate that way, speaks volumes. So if that's their thought process and they see them coming in to be a part of the team, I don't think they're going to err on the side of caution to protect the reputation of how they administer justice. It's just like gangs where they try to say guilty by association. It's the same way when you deal with corruption within us, when you deal with systematic corruption. If you're named in it or part of it, unfortunately, you're guilty by association. And so it would be hard for those two to go to neighboring counties since they have spoken out. Yeah, that was a form of intimidation, on the stand. Beautiful One says, "You know what? Her daughters live with her. They know how she is. I could be wrong, though." Well, according to the testimony in court, she moved to a friend's condo, but dad and daughters didn't come with her, and that was on record. And so all of how all of that played out, a lot of people, were rooting, for them in their positions. And like I said, you always wanna celebrate when, women get the higher positions. And I love when, you know, minorities get into higher positions because it's uncommon, for our history. And so by nature, you wanna wish them well, you wanna wish them the best, you wanna wish all of that. And then when you see that type of behavior, it really lets you down on a whole different level. And then you look at this defense, they're really trying to uphold their composure. They're trying to stay respectful to the court, and they're trying to honor the judge's rulings. How many times do you hear them say, well, Judge, I don't agree with that, but if you rule it, I'll honor it? Like, how sad, because you guys know what you guys are fighting. The word we're prosecuting off of, I believe. It's all over the record. It's preserved on every single page for every day. That's all we've heard is we believe. If you would really take out all of the I believes and you only keep exactly what you know, the case would have been done in a week. A speedy trial would have been granted. They would have appeared to be prepared, but they're not prepared. They're not prepared as much as we want to disagree with it. It's just not, it's not okay. It's not okay. And that's why we have to touch on these things. Says, yes, the defense is so honoring to Judge Whitaker. Yes, Janelle, I touched on that. One thing I recognized offhand, first thing was Mr. Steele. And when he would get up to address the court, um, anytime the jurors will walk in or the judge or any of that, he buttons up his suit, coat, the little buttons, and then he puts his hands in front of him and he stays respectful. When he sits down, he unbuttons it. Everything is this honorable court, whatever the Your Honor tells me to do, just all forms of respect to show, I respect the judicial process. And then you see the total opposite on the other hand. And that is what usually you'll see from, or not usually, but sometimes you see that type of behavior from a defense attorney that doesn't know better. But the expectation of a prosecutor and a chief and their veterans and a veteran ADA and a veteran judge who has this laugh that just occurs all the time. And these young men are literally fighting for their lives. Regardless of what videos that they're showing or, what they were talking about 10 years ago, they've had to do something right to not be back before you in 10 years. And so it's almost like they know that they wouldn't have a second chance to prosecute, so they have to get them this time. Because they know that it would not be approved to use the taxpayer dollars like this a second time. If a mistrial were to take place, the county cannot afford to do this a second time, to throw that. They can afford it, but the taxpayer dollars should not go to that. Yeah, there was definitely a benefit of the income for sure. It's just, you want to see those, you got to bring morals and ethics back. And if this was the same thing that was brought out during campaigning 4 years ago, and we're still talking about it 4 years later, another election's going to happen. What you can see is what has changed since she's been in seat. And so on our election coverage with our guests, that's something I think I'm going to put on the list right now to actually cover is actual things that were left in the balance. while all of these RICOs were going on. The YFN RICO it came after the YSL. It was scheduled to start, and when the YSL trial came back indicted, she pushed the YFN trial out the way and took the YSL trial first. And that trial's already done. No, beautiful one. They were separated years prior. Remember before Wade, there was the testimony on the Trump trial. She was in the relationship with Mr. York. He works in the courthouse. He's also a DJ by night, also does beats. He did the music festivals there. One that was funded by the label where the young man was deceased. Yeah, it's on a flyer. And they have all the photos on it together. So it's just really sad. You know, it's just really sad to see that and to know that, you know, it was a reason. If you already had one, they're both Ricos. They're both of the same caliber. Both of the same things, have the same things alleged in it. You just didn't get all these other, you know, crazy overacts in there. And it was already scheduled to start and it got pushed off. So there was a precedence for that trial. But the speedy trial wasn't granted. Yeah, the we believe are not facts. Yeah, there's no room for believe because you can't try a criminal case with a belief of something. You got to have the evidence. You got to have the facts. And like I said, if they would have went through everything and took out of all of their belief and um, think, because they use both words, think and believe, if you remove all of that from the case, we would have been done months ago or a year and a half ago. I don't even think the trial would have took 6 months. It would have took maximum 2 weeks. Because all of these witnesses that are coming are cumulative. They have added zero value. As I said, I've been tuned in from day one. I can't even remember. I literally cannot even remember the first 60 witnesses. Or if there's even, does anyone know the number of witnesses that have actually testified so far? I'm kind of curious of that because I've lost count. I've lost count a long time ago, but there has been nothing valuable or of substance that can be remembered. And if I've been tuning in from day one and I can't remember them, and I have a really good memory because my mind has been hazed and confused with all different other things that has occurred that has really washed the other witnesses away because of the things that have occurred in the past 3 months. Weinstein was very on point with that. Like he was super, super on point with the juror analysis because It's the people's analysis that we talk about every single day. We talk about it every single day. It says no, but not many. I can't remember exactly how many have hit the stand, but I can't even. A couple months ago, I could name them in the order that they came, but I can't do that anymore. That's how much other stuff that has come in that has overshadowed. And can you imagine the deliberation process for those jurors? The state wants to give them transcripts, relook at videos, re-listen to jail calls. If they ask to hear any of that stuff, there's hundreds on top of hundreds. The jurors will be out for weeks deliberating. Like at some point, somebody has to weigh in with reality. And this judge saying today, well, the state does have a right to present their case for a couple years. I thought it was interesting that ones that were on the witness list that she had been using in the beginning part of the trial, saying, well, we have this witness coming, we have this witness coming. And then when it got closer on the list, they're no longer coming. So that list of over 700 was fluff. And that fluff should have been removed. It's a lot going on. It's a lot going on. We'll have a presentation to play for you guys tomorrow. Um, I hope that the second guest will be on tomorrow. We're going to actually come on earlier because we know everyone has to get up early. We have to get up early. So we were thinking 8 o'clock would be a little bit more beneficial and respectful of your guys' time. And it would also help us as we are getting older and we do get up pretty early to get our day going. So I was hoping around 8 would probably be a better time for us to do like an 8 to 10. I hope it works for you guys. We really enjoy you guys every day and value your opinions, your perspectives. And I definitely offer your notes. When you guys comment, I take notes all the time because I want to be able to use your guys's opinions when we write. So that way, when I do the people and their views, I have exact, things. Says not many compared to a witness list, right? Yeah. Yeah, so we will put it out earlier tomorrow. It'll be at 8 p.m. So we'll be live at 8 p.m. tomorrow. I hope everyone has a great night. And I hope that you guys get to wherever you're going safely tomorrow and make it back home safely. You guys all have a great night and thank you for tuning in.